There is nothing new here. And what he does present in the report, though, I will give him credit for this. He's entirely consistent with the prejudging of this investigation that he communicated, a month or so in starting it. We knew from the very beginning exactly what John Durham was going to conclude, and that's what we saw today. We knew from the very beginning this was never a legitimate investigation. This was a political errand to exact some sort of retribution on Donald Trump's perceived enemies in the FBI. That's what Mr. Durham has done.
This is the fact that Andy McCabe still has a contributorship with CNN is amazing to me. Welcome back to the program. Dana Loesch here with you. You can listen to the radio show Coast to Coast on an affiliate near you. You can stream it. You can also watch the simulcast, YouTube, Facebook, Channel 347, Direct TV. If you look at the evidence in the case with the Durham report, if you look at the evidence with what House Oversight has been doing, and you compare it to the Russian collusion stuff, I mean, there's actual evidence and receipts and everything else that House Oversight has. Joining us right now, the chairman of the GOP House Oversight Committee, James Comer. Representative Comer, it is a pleasure to have you. We appreciate your hard work and your diligence in running this story out. You had the press conference earlier. We were all watching. There is a lot here to not only continue to substantiate the investigation, but there are more questions that are coming out from this because, as you were highlighting, Congressman, you have the Biden family, Hunter Biden. A bunch of these LLCs, a bunch of these companies, they were getting money from, foreign nationals, getting money from CEFC with China, a CCP, basically owned energy company. I think the question is, what did they get for all of this money that they were hiding in all of these different companies that led to those suspicious activity reports? What did they get for that money?
Yeah, well, the banks were clear that they suspected there was a money laundering operation going on. And when you have a bunch of different LLCs that seem to pose as no legitimate business, simply a pass-through entity for money from foreign nationals, then that makes the banks nervous. And that's what the banks indicated in all of those bank violations that they reported to Treasury. Look, there are multiple banks, and they all said the same thing. And when you look at what large amount of money the Biden family received, the question that everyone in the media should be asking President Biden when he's in front of a reporter is, what exactly did your family do to receive all this money? I mean, you can say, well, Hunter Biden was a lobbyist for the Chinese Communist Party. Well, as bad as that is, that's still a felony because that's a foreign agent, and he's not registered as a foreign agent. And people go to jail all the time for taking money from foreign entities that aren't registered as foreign agents. Next, what did his grandchild do to receive money from a foreign national? What did his in-laws and nieces and nephews, what did they do? Now, obviously, Romania and China expected to get a return on their investment. I don't believe there's anything any of those 9 Biden family members could do to provide that type of return on investment. The only one that could provide that type of return is Joe Biden.
And that's right. And it was interesting, too, you pointed out as well, we're talking with Congressman James Comer from the great state of Kentucky, chair of House Oversight. One of the things that you pointed out as well, Congressman, is that the checks or the money from Romania, correct me if I'm wrong on this, that stopped when Joe Biden left the office of the vice president.
Exactly. That's another point. The media, in their never-ending defense of Joe Biden, always said once the laptop was proven to be real, well, okay, maybe Hunter Biden was doing some shady things, but none of that money ever went to the Bidens when Joe Biden was in office. That's not true. A lot of the Chinese money came to the Biden family when Joe Biden was vice president. A lot of those LLCs, those fake companies that the Bidens set up, just for no other purpose apparently than to launder money from the foreign nationals, they were incorporated when Joe Biden was vice president. And then 16 of the 17 payments from Romania to the Biden family members happened when Joe Biden was vice president. The last one happened just days after he left the vice presidency. And then they dropped the Bidens. Once Joe Biden was out of office, they never had anything to do with him again. So there's a pattern here of influence peddling, and we need to know what exactly did Joe Biden provide in terms of influence to our adversaries around the world.
And especially with regards to China, this becomes a national security issue as well, because I believe when the Rosemont Seneca, when they were working with CEFC, I think it was that relationship that facilitated China's acquisition of one of the biggest cobalt mines in the world in the People's Democratic Republic of Congo. When you talk about the Green New Agenda and making us, subservient essentially in that regard in energy to China, that's a national security issue.
Absolutely. And Hunter Biden said he never got paid on that deal, and he did get paid on that deal. But regardless, what was Hunter Biden doing for CEFC? Because, that was legitimate work.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he essentially served as a lobbyist. CEFC is owned by the Chinese Communist Party. What were they trying to do when they were in operation? They were trying to buy any type of industry they could buy, whether it's a rare earth mineral industry like the one you mentioned in Congo. They were trying to buy all the rare earth mineral mines in the United States. They were trying to buy ownership in infrastructure companies for the natural gas industry, the drillers, in other words, for natural gas. They were also trying to buy farmland. And look, everyone in America is upset and in agreement. They don't want China to buy farmland in the United States. Hunter Biden was trying to help them do that. That's according to Bob Alinsky and some of the other associates who have said publicly. What exactly was Hunter Biden doing for CFC? He was trying to do all the things we're trying to prevent China from doing in Congress in a bipartisan way. The Biden family was getting paid by the enemy to do things that were in our nation's worst interest from a national security standpoint.
We're talking with Congressman James Comer, chair of the House Oversight Committee. You noted, this came out the other day, the entire investigative team looking into this, because this case, I believe, because of the 170 plus suspicious activity reports that triggered this investigation going back to 2018, how the entire team was removed from this case. A whistleblower said that this was retaliation. How does an entire team get removed from investigating this?
Well, this just shows how out of control the deep state is. They did it because they can. They did it because they can get away with it. The mainstream media is not going to report on it. They know the Senate's still controlled by the Democrat. So if the House went to some extreme measure and tried to impeach somebody, the Senate would never convict. They know this. And thanks to a lot of our Republican friends in the Senate, their budget's funded for several more months. So they're going to continue to cover up. And they're so blatant and arrogant about it, they don't care that everybody in the world sees it. They think the media is going to always get our back. And the Republicans in the Senate, at the end of the day, when we're backs against the wall for a debt ceiling negotiation or budget standoff, they'll always go along and do the bipartisan thing. And they think they can continue to get away with it. But that is retaliation against a whistleblower. And that's one thing that should be bipartisan in Congress. Public corruption is a bipartisan issue. Everyone should be opposed to that. And if you have a whistleblower brave enough to come forward to report wrongdoing, then at the very least, you don't retaliate against them. The IRS not only retaliated, they did it publicly and proudly.
Yeah. You had mentioned, talking with Congressman James Comer, you had mentioned one of the whistleblowers. The media was going crazy over this. You said, you tweeted in response to MSNBC's reporting, you said, you don't watch them, but apparently they've been running stories saying the Grassley whistleblower is missing. You added, I'm sorry to disappoint the liberal defenders of taking bribes for cash, but the Grassley whistleblower is alive and well. Clarify this for us, because this is what they ran with. And I mean, I know you saw you were trending the other day.
Yeah. I didn't know. Somebody had to tell me. There was all these protesters outside, and little Murkowski does his little stunt with a poster board saying the missing whistleblower. I didn't know what they were talking about. Somebody said, you know what Rachel Maddow, whatever her name is, said? I said, no, I don't watch her. Nobody in my district watches her. But said that Comer said the whistleblower is missing. There are a lot of whistleblowers. And what they were referring to was an interview I did on Maria Bartiromo. I was talking about a whistleblower from Israel on an old whistleblower that dates back to when Trump was president. There are many whistleblowers, but the one that's, I think, of the most importance right now is the one we're trying to get information from the FBI with the Form 1023. That is the Grassley whistleblower. That's what I call this whistleblower. You have the IRS whistleblower and the Grassley whistleblower, two different whistleblowers. The Grassley whistleblower is alive and well. But I was talking about an old whistleblower, and I think that's what the media misunderstood. So MSNBC was celebrating. I don't know if they were hoping that the whistleblower was dead somewhere, so that they had been murdered, or if they thought, well, Comer just made it up. Yeah. But let me be very clear. The Grassley whistleblower, the one that I issued the subpoena to Christopher Wray for information on, that whistleblower is alive and well. So MSNBC, on top of all the Durham report, on top of the Steele dossier, all the bull crap that they've reported, this is another instance of fake news. So MSNBC continues to have a bad week.
Yeah, and will continue. Still, we're talking with Congressman James Comer, Chair of House Oversight, on all of this with the Biden investigation. And one quick thing, and then I'll move on. And we just got a couple more questions. We were talking just a moment ago about the team that was removed from investigating this. Are you concerned that this is going to kneecap the investigation? What happens after this?
We're going to continue to have press conferences. Eventually, I think the media is going to have to report on it because 70% of the American people are following this. Mm-hmm. Rasmussen came out with a poll. They're concerned. Americans are concerned about public corruption, and especially independent voters. They don't care if they're Democrat or Republican. They despise politicians on the take, corrupt politicians. And what we are accusing the Biden family of is public corruption here. So they're watching this. They know it's odd that 9 Biden family members received money from foreign nationals. They know it's odd that Bidens have all these shell companies to launder money, right? So the IRS got rid of their team that was investigating the Bidens because clearly you have tax evasion issues here. If you Google the word racketeering, it pops up what the Bidens are doing with creating these fake companies to launder money, to disguise money, to deceive the IRS. That's what they were doing. So they can remove the IRS team. They can put their own hacks in there in charge of this. But we're going to continue to show the American people all these fake companies, all this questionable and probably illegal money they're getting from foreign nationals all over the world. And the American people are eventually going to figure this out and demand change.
So it does sound like they're trying to slow down or stop this investigation from within.
No question. The IRS is, the FBI is.
They'll go after you for a $600 payment on Venmo, but on this, they'll drag their feet.
Well, when Joe Biden talks about tax cheats, we're going to go, when he says in his old frail, decrepit voice, we're going to go after tax cheats. He needs to look in the mirror. He needs to look at his Christmas photo, okay? Because the way they set those LLCs up, the odds of them paying their fair taxes, if any taxes on that, are slim to none. Mm-hmm. So he needs to start at home when he talks about tax cheats. We don't need to hire 87,000 new IRS employees. We need to we need to start with the people that clearly are creating entities to deceive the IRS. And that starts with the Biden family.
And it starts with them. That leads me to really my last question with this. Because the 170 suspicious activity reports from the banks, they saw that, they thought it was something's not right, they flagged it, but somebody in the FBI had to know. I mean, they had to know about the Biden family's ties with, a geopolitical foe, with the CEFC. So what did they know, and why didn't they do anything about it? Or if they did, where's the proof?
Senator Grassley and I are negotiating with the FBI right now. Why won't you tell us whether or not you looked into the Grassley whistleblower's claim? We know that 1023 form exists. Yeah. We want to know what the FBI did, if anything, to investigate the validity of the claim. This is a claim that when Joe Biden was vice president, he engaged in a quid pro quo with a foreign national. This is a very serious claim. I don't think anyone has ever been alleged in the history of our United States, in the history of the office of president, has ever been accused of doing anything like that. And we want to know simply, FBI, did you look into this? If so, what did you find? They won't tell us. I mean, it has all the makings of a cover-up from the FBI all the way down to the IRS.
This is going to be a movie someday. Better think about who's going to play you, Congressman. Congressman James Comer, it's a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for fighting so hard for all of us on getting these answers. I mean, it is a national security issue, and we want to know. We appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of course.